So good evening and welcome to the Down the Lane podcast. And this is post Chelmsford, of course, where we got beat 2-1. We haven't got Bobby with us tonight. He's still recovering from his operation. And so we've got Rob standing in for us. So good evening, Rob.
Evening.
Give us your thoughts on Saturday.
There's two halves to that game. There was the first 5 minutes, and then there was the rest of it. Felt sorry for Woody. First game in, twice he's had to pick the ball out of the net in 5 minutes. He did make two incredible saves later on in the game, I thought. Arguably, you could say he was our man of the match with those two saves. Wasteful in front of goal, as normal. I think we were. And yeah, I felt that after they scored their two goals, we can put a positive spin on it. We bossed the game from then on, but I don't think they needed to do much after that. Two goals and then ride it out.
Yeah, Miles, your thoughts?
Even everyone. Sort of on the same lines as Rob. I think Joe said to me about sort of 60 minutes in, Chelmsford didn't really need to get out of second gear for most of the game. They were able to pretty much keep men behind the ball and just sort of transition and made it hard for us to break them down. And I can't remember many like clear cut chance we had. We thought like, we should have scored that. Obviously had the penalty, and Davis should have scored at the end as well. I don't know how he put it wide. Other than that, it just felt like we had a few shots from outside of the area, which the keeper was more than equal to. And it comes back to, I think it's a mentality thing again. We said it so many times, not just under this season, under Matt or Tommy, but it was Adam as well. Like, we're just sort of crumbling key points to game. Like, I don't play football to any good level, but the first thing you ever told is to keep it tight first 10 minutes and see if you can build into the game, especially against a side. We said on the podcast last week that if Chelmsford concede an early goal or get frustrated, they're probably going to start playing poorly. So to give them a leg up, 2-0 up after like 10 minutes was, unforgivable, really. Adigan, though, coming back to bite us as well, like with an incredible goal. I'm not sure how he's been allowed to get a push to the floor, allowed to get back up again, then swivel and put in pretty much the top corner. Just shows you the sort of quality that we had on display last season that we sort of don't have currently in some areas. I thought Jaden changed the game a lot on the left-hand side. If he's fit, he's got to start on Saturday, in my opinion. Because we just didn't get enough in wide areas. Like, just every time I went out, to Linter or Josh would cut in invariably and sort of take a shot, and most of the time that was ineffective. And then Linter, who, to be fair, Linter's been good, better since Tommy's come in, but it was just pretty ineffective. Like crossing, like service-wise, I don't think George had a shot all game. And then Pemi had a couple of chances, but if you feed Pemi, he's going to score. Right, he's third or second top goal scorer in the league now. So, really disappointing, because we keep coming on here last few weeks and saying the same sort of thing. Like against Dorking, we played well and then couldn't get anything out of the game, and a home game against a team that's nothing. They're nothing special, Chelmsford. To come away with nothing is very disappointing.
Similar. I think I was very disappointed with the first two goals. Like you say, with the Jason one, I don't know how he was allowed to. I mean, it was an incredible finish, but I don't know how he was allowed to have that time. But more importantly, the first one for me, I mean, he had so much space. Christ, he could have built a house in this penalty area. I couldn't believe. And then when Tommy came out in his interview afterwards and said, basically, look, I told them what they're going to do. I told them this is how they do a corner. That they'll play it short, you follow them out, and they just leave that space behind. They've been training with that. And I think, honesty, I was walking around after 10 minutes saying, I'm not going to Dover. I'm not going to Dover Saturday, because why should I? Why, I can earn money Saturday, could be a busy day at work for me. And why should I waste my day going down there if I see the players not doing it? Then I see the next 80 minutes and I think, well, hang on a minute, they're putting it in and whatever else. And I know me and you, Miles, was having a little chuckle at half time and you're like, you'll be there.
Yeah.
And I probably will be. Well, we'll be there. But I think, the issue for me is I think I take out of a lot of Tommy's interviews, and I think he was a little bit more. I think he was a little bit more strenuous about it in this one. Was we have got to start looking at the we rather than the I, and the wasteful chances up front. We've heard Tommy say it more than once, and we say it as supporters. There's opportunities where they can pass the ball and it is a greater chance of a goal than someone taking a shot, and they're taking a shot because they're thinking of the I rather than the we as a team.
Sorry, is it that though? Is it a lack of trust for your teammate? Is it selfishness, or is it I don't trust if I pass it to you, you're going to kick it in?
It could be that. It could be that, Rob. But at the end of the day, for me, it's the player that's wanting to. Does he trust the player that's going to play the ball to him? I think this is where Tommy is saying it needs to be the we rather than the I. We're a team, and you have to. Look, if you pass the ball and the player you pass it to, you haven't got the confidence in him and he doesn't put it in the back of the net, then at the end of the day, at the end of the game, when Tommy wants to have a pop at somebody, he's not going to have a pop at you for passing it. He's going to have a pop at me for missing it. So I think the players, for me, need to start taking a little bit of ownership about the situation we're in, because I've heard people saying, "Oh, Tommy's not the saviour. Tommy's not this. Tommy's not that." I think our performances since Tommy has come in have been so much more better. When you look at Dorking away, I mean, I said on the pod and on the way home, Mark, how solid we looked, how much of a unit we actually looked together. And I think that's disappointing, is when we're sitting here saying, look, we've been beat 4-2 at Dorking, but actually we've come away. And I used the phrase that, look, if there's such thing as a positive defeat, that's what I took from Dorking, because I thought we looked so much better. And then we come up against this on Saturday, and that is not a positive defeat for me. That is an absolutely shocking defeat.
Yeah, I think that was a game. You look back at it now, we're talking about a team, whether they 15th at the start of the game.
Yeah.
Home games against teams that are 15th, let's say 15th is their level, 15th and below. Home games against those teams are games we have to be looking at winning if we're looking to stay up. Teams above that, they're your... In previous seasons, you'd say you would want to be winning every game at home, but teams above 15th, they're your smash and grab games. If you can get a point, get a win, great. But anything 15th and below, you have to be winning those games, which is, although we're playing better, I am really concerned about relegation. We can all say we're getting better, we're looking more positive, there's good things on the horizon, but it's Christmas next week, so we're well into the season, and getting close isn't cutting it. It has to be. We're not cutthroat. We're not cutthroat in tackles. We're not cutthroat in front of goal. We're naive to the dark arts, and we don't play it ourselves. Is that because we've got such a young team? Do you guys think? Or
yeah, we definitely need some signings. Like, you can only do so much with the players we've got right. I think everyone on Saturdays sort of can see the areas we need some additions. Like everyone's been saying a lot about the midfield, of course. Only really having Eastman in there. I mean, I like Grout. I think he's a good young talent, but to throw him in every week to start is a big ask in a relegation fight. And then we'll also have to put Trusty at left centre back, and that sort of brings me on to the next point: is like we need to get a settled defence. Like personally, I don't see Mullins playing there long term at right centre back. Like,
No.
I get Tommy's got to experiment with players in different positions to see what works and what doesn't. But at the same time, he played up front against Hampton and Richmond, got 3 assists and terrorised their defenders. Um, so was it the right call to put George in? But everyone's clamouring to get George to start. So who won't be a manager, right? It's difficult to make these choices. But I personally would love to see a settled back three. Obviously, Phipps will be in there, of course, because he's no doubt our best defender currently. And then if he insists in playing Trusty left centre back, I think he's done a pretty decent job there so far. We need that settled right centre back role, whether that be Dan Quick, Leif, Freddie, whoever it may be. Like we had in the Adam Murray's relegation survival back end of 23-24. Like, because I just settled back three. Was it Moose, Bird, and one other, probably Quick, I reckon. Play the majority of games back end of the season. Having that and a solid keeper behind him, like stop flip flopping between. I know Freddie's Woody just come in, sorry. So like I'm assuming he'll get more game time now and he'd be the first choice, but to have that settled back three and keeper just does absolutely wonders for confidence and relationships. Yeah, so that's what I'd like to see, and we need to start pull our finger out a bit more in the market soon. Like we had a good start of additions, but I'm sure Simon Allen and Tommy aren't naive to the fact we're going to need some more players in. So yeah, but some crucial games coming up for us to get some points out of.
Yeah, and I took from what you said, Rob. I took, you started off and you were talking about the teams 15th and below. Your first comment was they have to be the games that we are looking to win. And then further on, you said, and I was actually thinking exactly what you said after that. They're not games we should be looking to win. They're games we must win. Right? They are becoming must-win games now. And listen, it's all well and good saying, "Oh, we'll go on a run," and but when we were sitting there a few weeks back, we said, "Oh, if we win 2 or 3 games, we're in mid-table. If we win 4 or 5, we're up there in the playoffs." Now, if we win 4 or 5, we're still looking over our shoulder, and that's the problem. That's the problem for me now, is that we all went through that year, relegation year, and let's be fair, we had the game down at where we played Truro down at Gloucester that was called off because of the injury. That was another game Truro had to play. Taunton had the pitch issues, which is what caused that. And when we look at that season, I think we did do enough to stay up, but we was assisted by the fixture backlog for them 2 teams. There isn't that fixture backlog this year. And as much as I hear people saying that, teams are just throwing everything at it, clubs are just throwing everything at it, there comes a stage, and I know only too well, I'm a West Ham fan, right? So I've seen this many a time, but there comes a stage where you have to go out into that transfer market and you have to spend money. You have to sign players in. Now, obviously, I'm talking at West Ham. I'm not saying that we should be spending money here at Borough, but we definitely need them players in. We need players that are head and shoulders above, and that's difficult. And I wonder if the difficulty in getting some of these players in is now because they're looking at the situation and thinking, I don't want to get relegated. I don't want a relegation on my CV. And it is looking dangerous.
Well, it's what you're saying about signings and stuff as well. It's what kind of players do you get in? Are we looking at players from higher divisions that are nearing the end and want to drop down and are winding their way down in their career, or you're looking at teams below where you're taking a risk, you're gambling. Can you do it at a higher level? I think where Adam got his recruitment spot on was he was taking players from an equivalent level. So National League North, he was taking those players, bringing them down to us, so they were the right kind of level, but the players that he trusted and knew could do the job for him. I don't think since we've had Adam leave, I can't think of any players that we've brought down from the National North. I don't know, Mars, if you can think of any.
Leif Fern played for Russia Olympic last season, but he was
Yeah.
on loan from Birmingham. I think that's probably about it. I can't think of anything else. Like, I think I put a post in the forum a few weeks back, just sort of saying that the squad this year, in terms of how many years they've had experience-wise in the league or above, etc., compared to last season's squad, is just like night and day, the difference in the experience levels. So yeah, it's definitely something you've got to look at. And just to touch on Barry's point of like how people think we might go on a run, and like, to be fair, it's like put on record, I don't think we'll go down. Yeah, if I had to put money on it either way, I'd say we'd stay up. But that's only because of the historic. We had this exact same situation pretty much a couple of years ago, and we did stay up, and we got more time this time. However, just sort of checked out the league table from this this many games played in 2 years ago, and we were under Mark Beard. We had 20 points from 21 games. We've now got 15 from the same amount of games. Obviously, we've got a bit more time with a new manager, but it's not looking good. And as Barry said, we were massively reliant back end of that season. Like, Taunton fell off a cliff. They were like top of the league in September, and then had so many issues with postponements, like Barry said, to the point where they just lost like probably most of their games out of the last 20. So we've really got to start winning those games, especially at home. Our home form's been absolutely dismal so far this season. I think we're the worst side in the league for home form, which is like not what you need in a relegation fight. You look at games like Chippenham when we drop points. Slough aren't doing very good. We drop points there. Whereas when we stayed up, I remember good wins against like Havant and Waterlooville, Taunton we beat. So those are the games we need to start really focusing on. And we got a couple of those coming up, haven't we, as well? So
yeah. So talking about the upcoming games, obviously we've got Dover Saturday, who are currently 10th in the league. Boxing Day, we've got Worthing, who are second. The Tuesday the 30th, we've got Tunbridge. I think they're currently 16th in the league. And then we've got Slough away, who are obviously just one position above us, 3 points above us.
Yeah.
And I just sit there and I think to myself, in all honesty, Dover have won 8 of their 21 games. We're halfway through a season now. And I know what you just said there, Miles, about having more time. We're halfway through a season. And there are teams that have got games in hand. I've got 2 games in hand of us. I start seeing now that this is where we really need to start. We really need to start picking up these wins, because I don't envisage, if I'm honest, we're going to do a prediction like we do every night, every pod at the end of tonight. I'm not going to predict us getting anything at Dover. If you ask me about Boxing Day, I think I want to beat Worthing. Of course I do. Worthing on an amazing run since Hinch has gone back. Do I see us getting anything out of the game? No. And then and then we move on to Tunbridge, who that becomes a must-win game. And Slough, we cannot get beat at Slough. Now the joy of it is that with Horsham still in the trophy, I think they've got Leatherhead in the next round. Our game on the 10th is now cancelled or postponed. So we've got 4 games in a quick period of time, and then we've got a week off. And I think that by the time it comes to that week off, we need to have picked points up, but we also need to be in that position, which is of having these players in, and whether that is signing players from higher leagues to bringing them down, or I don't know. I mean, Tommy will obviously have his list of players that he knows he can work with, and I think we're likely to see. For me, again, I don't, I don't get no inside info or anything like that, but I just try and read what somebody's saying, and I think the biggest thing I took out of Tommy's interview after Saturday was when he said, these players won't change, and they lost the last manager his job, and then he kind of chuckled and said, they ain't gonna lose me mine. And that for me was, look, I think he's tried with what we've got. Yeah, but you can only keep trying with the same person so long.
And so my concern with what he was saying on that is what happened after the game that we all saw as he was walking off the pitch with Jayden, but then also at the bar after the game, Jayden approached him, asked him for a chat. He just turned away and said, "No, Monday." That was it. Said nothing more to him. No, Monday. So my view is when Jayden came on, and it wasn't just Jayden coming on, it was the shift. So Jayden coming on, putting Max up the top with Pemi, and Dan coming at right back. We looked so much better. I can see why he tried Max at the back so he could get George on. George was a passenger the whole game. I don't know what's happened with George. Obviously, he's had his injury, but he was a passenger. He didn't have the fight in getting it back. He wasn't looking competitive. He wasn't looking up to speed. Is it too soon for him to be back? Don't know, but as you touched on earlier, Miles, is with Max up with Pemi, we look so much more threatening. And I don't think Dan Quick is a risk. I think he's a steady player to have at right back. Is he the kind of player that's going to win you games? Is he going to turn games? I don't think so. I've not ever seen that from him, but he's certainly steady. He's not someone I'd have any concerns about being in the starting lineup.
Yeah, on George though, like it's a mixture. I think there's like multiple factors that come into like George's lack of performance. Obviously, the obvious one is the fact that he hasn't had a string of games in the side this year because of injury. Second point is that he's started first time on the time he started. I mean, I could be wrong there. But Matt Gray's style of football really didn't suit him, so he sort of got to partially discount the first part of the year. And I can't talk out of place about George's mentality, but as anyone did in a workplace, if you have a season or a year or whatever it may be that was as good as George last year, scoring 26 goals, something like that, and we don't go up, or he doesn't go up himself, as in get bought, has that led to him feeling like a bit dejected? And that's the difference, right, between players that make it to the Football League and ones that don't. Is ones that are happy to pick themselves up and try again. I don't want to say that's the case with George, but I'm just putting theories out there. Has it taken its toll on him, and has it knocked his confidence? And as he thought, sort of, I've had 3 or 4 years now at this level. He's had a few loan spells, obviously Chelmsford before us. Is he starting to doubt himself, maybe potentially?
Or is it just he's comfortable, and that's more what I'm worried about. Is he accepting? Do you know what, this is it? This is what it is, and is that where his fight's gone? Is it because he's just coming back from injury? And he's just trying to ease himself back. I wouldn't question that he hasn't got it, because we saw that last season.
He's got it. Yeah, 100%.
But it's how quickly can he get back to it? And is that something that can be coached for him, or is that something he needs to sort out himself in his own head? Is I need to switch on and win my place back.
Yeah, we'll give him time though, because I mean, not tons of time, but like enough time, because I mean, like now he's got the circumstances he needs, hopefully, to perform. It's like system wise, obviously not identical to Adam, but it's very, very similar. Same formation, and we look to play, etc. Obviously, not the main man anymore to some extent, especially not this season, with Pemi being so prolific. But one thing I remember from George from last season, him and Pavey didn't work well together. He was much better with Bamba next to him. I think when Pavey played and George played together, Pavey didn't score and George didn't score as much. So will he struggle to adapt to having a target man next to him potentially? Whereas before, when he was in his pod, shall we say, like scoring hat tricks every week, he had Bamba creating space by being an absolute nuisance and being Sonic pretty much in behind. And then Adigan, we do have an Adigan-esque player in Kai. I really rate Kai, but he's going to need a bit of time to build that relationship up with him, right? It's not going to come like basically they were telepathic last season, Adigan and Alexander, weren't they?
Yeah.
Especially like back end of season on the home games like Farnborough, Chippenham, etc. So yeah, it's big month or so for George now. Is see what he's really made of.
I think as well. I mean, we've got to look that. There was a few players out on Saturday with illness, and Tommy said that there'd been a bit of illness in the camp. No one knows if any of the players that were on the pitch had maybe got a little bit of it. Sometimes it creeps up on you. So, I mean, I think you have to allow for that. But you can't allow for that for the whole team. You can't allow for that. I mean, I'd like to see what George can do again. Because I mean, we know, like we said, we know George has got it. But you're right, Miles, in saying, does he need that particular strike partner to be playing with him? We've all seen it where you'll get one striker that doesn't do it, and yet all of a sudden when his mate's next to him, and how many times have we heard the best strike partnership? Because that's what it's all about, right? They need to know how they're working with each other. But yeah, we need to find that balance and quickly. That's the thing. It's getting to the stage now where we need to find out who the strikers are going to be, who them defenders are going to be. I mean, but I think we need them in. I think we need them players in. That's for me. I just, I'm not gonna pinpoint any players individually, but I think there's 3 or 4 of them players that, for me, just don't seem to be doing it. They don't seem to be improving as much as the others under Tommy. And look, you need to be able to work for your manager. You need to be able to, you need to be on that same level. And if you're not, we saw it with Adam, right? We saw players come in and they'd have 1 or 2 games and they might not get on a training. Before we knew it, we're like, well, where have they gone? And they're gone. And he turned around very, very quickly if they weren't going to fall in with how he wanted to run that football club. And I think we're in that same situation now for me.
Yeah. While we're talking about the team as a whole, we don't want to dig out individuals because they're all trying to achieve the same goal, but everyone's got their own idea of how it works. The same with us as fans. You could say that the fans have been fragmented this season. There's a lot of desperation around, but with what frustrates me with what I see on pitch is I don't see the urgency. I don't see if I'm playing alongside someone. Well, let's turn that around. If I feel that my performance has dropped 5%, I would expect at least 3 people to be on my back. telling me to pick myself up, sort myself out because they're picking up my workload. You look at how is it Musa and who's had a fight with Musa in the last season? Courtney. That's the kind of. I'm not saying I want to see our players fighting with each other on pitch, but we were trying to win the league, and the fight was there.
Yep.
Between teammates, getting on each other's back, wanting to perform better. If your performance dropped, your teammate felt your performance has dropped 5%, they'll be letting you know. I'm not seeing that with our team. We've had a big overhaul, obviously, we all know, but I'm not seeing anyone get on anyone else's back. They all seem very nice to each other.
Comes down to
and
lack of leaders.
That worries me.
Yeah, comes down to lack of leaders again. Like people like Moose. I can't remember. I'm not sure if Moose won promotion from the league. I know he played for Woking in the National League. You can audibly hear Eastman when you're on the side. So I was in a north stand for like most of the game on all the game on Saturday, and you can hear him, picking people up, giving instruction, etc. We need a few more of those sort of players that like across the pitch. I think Phipps is a good addition. We were sort of touching earlier on what sort of players we need to bring in, and I think my answer to that is a bit boring, but maybe like a mix of everything really. Like you need all different players and types of people in a team to win. You need some. There is a place for youthful exuberance and the naivety that comes with not knowing the pressures. If that makes sense. Like you looked at players like Braden who are just like completely fearless because. Maybe, I could be wrong here, but maybe they don't understand the consequences. Does that make sense? They haven't suffered that first massive blow. But then equally, you need players that have had a couple of times where they've missed out, and equally players that have been and done it. So, we need to get that selection really, really right. And it's a fine line between taking your time with it to get the right players, but also, we can't pause time on the season and have another pre-season now. We've got games to play and points to pick up, and
Totally agree, and I think that's where the players that come in, that's what they need to be. They need to be leaders. They need to be able to. I think I was saying this last week or maybe the week before, where I said about, it's all right if you've just got one player that you're trying to mentor, but when you've got 2 or 3, 4. You're trying to, and basically at the moment we need 11 captains on the pitch. We need 11 generals that are going to sit there and fight. And I'm not saying that the players don't fight, but I'm just saying that there's a different level, like you just said there, Miles. Once you've been in that situation, and either the situation of, let's be fair, every one of them players last season would have been disappointed to miss out on the league title basically by a goal. And they would have been looking back at 4 or 5 games, the same as we all did, saying if only that game had been different, if only that game had been different. So, the players that were here last year would have been even more disappointed. And I think that if they'd have stayed, that would have been their drive. That would have been their the ignition would have already been started before the season started, before pre-season started. But I think we now need players that have actually been in that situation of being in a relegation battle, because it's totally different when you're, we could go into a game now, any game, and a point is a good result for us. Because it's actually over the average what we've got. And I know I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. We've got 15 points and we are now halfway through the season. It's frightening. And I know it's improved a bit, but it's still frightening because I'm thinking, I'm thinking it's serious now. What happens in middle of January, end of January, if we haven't started winning games of football? What happens then? It's not serious then. It's
this becomes a crisis meeting where we start getting counselling from each other. That's what happens.
Yeah, we'll have a half an hour podcast, but a 2 hour call where we're
Yeah,
counselling each other before the
yeah.
before the
Mhm.
call. But yeah, so Dover Saturday. Let's have your thoughts on that, Rob. Not a prediction yet, just your thoughts on the game and what we.
Um, I think it'll be a difficult atmosphere for us, given that it's free entry for everyone down there. They're going to have a big crowd. So I don't think it's going to be a very, very welcoming place to be. I think the players are going to have to be tough. Yes, I'm not expecting a ballet. I'm expecting more of a street fight.
Miles?
I'm expecting a very, very difficult game. I mean, form-wise, Dover are second in the form table in the last 5 games, and they've won 4 and drawn 1, which is pretty frightening when you come up against our form. I think we're probably like, what, I don't check, but 20th, I'd imagine, in the form guide. And to add on top of that, we haven't won at Dover since about before 2011, because I looked on the recent head-to-heads and I can't find an away win on the records. So if someone who has been following Borough longer than I have can tell us when we last won at the Crabble, that would be nice. But yeah, we haven't won there in a very, very long time. And not to say that that won't happen this time, but that can get in your head sometimes, can't it? Yeah, it's gonna be a struggle. We're playing on a grass pitch and not a very good grass pitch, from what I understand. And I remember watching. I didn't go to it. I watched us play Dover in 23-24 when they went down on National League TV, and looked like it was a mud bath pretty much inside both penalty areas and the centre circle. And I think it's got a bit of a slant as well. So that doesn't really suit free flowing, nice on the floor football that we like to play. But then, to be fair, we have shown that we can tough out on these sort of pitches. Like Maidenhead, we got a result. Enfield, we got a result. So we never know. It could suit us. But yeah, Dover on, there'll be no pushovers. And as Rob said, I expect. I've been thinking about what the crowd might be, and I can't make my mind up whether it be anywhere between 2,000 to like 4 or 5,000. I don't know, but in any event, we're going to be very massively outnumbered. As always, important for us to be loud, but to see the amount of places in the crowd for the players, I hope it doesn't affect them. Because we know what happened down at Torquay when we were faced with 3,500 people, we absolutely crumbled. So let's hope history doesn't repeat ourselves there with the bumper crowd we're expecting.
So I'm similar to you guys, expecting a bit of a dogfight down there. I did actually speak to somebody at Dover yesterday, and they're a bit like you, Miles. They don't know if there's going to be 1,500 or 5,000. And they said it's so difficult to prepare for this game because how much food do they get in? How much beer do they get in? How much? And she was saying to me it's been a bit of a nightmare for them. But it's going to be a fun day. I think there's a lot going on there. Advice is to get there early. She did say to me yesterday, because I asked because I just wanted to make sure for when we was recording. Obviously, this is delayed. We were going to record yesterday, but technical issues we couldn't. So. Yeah, she did say that there's no reserved spaces for away fans as such. They haven't reserved tickets for anybody, but they're not expecting it to be at capacity. They're expecting a big crowd, but they're not expecting it to be anywhere near capacity. So I think really that obviously the fan network, the forum and stuff like that will the first ones there will be posting about how many are there. And I know the coach is talking about stopping at a club a couple of minutes down the road because obviously it's going to be very busy in the ground. I will say this: it might be 2 minutes down the road, but if I remember rightly about Dover, it's got a hill like that you've got to walk up. before you get in the ground. And so it might take 2 minutes just to get up that slope because it's quite a slope.
It also depends how many beers you've had.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if I remember rightly, last time I went down there, which I thought we won, and I was trying to work out when it was.
It might have been before 2011, judging of my earlier research.
It might have been. It might have been 2011 actually. We went from there to Crayford Dogs, and my dog won at Crayford Dogs, so we'll be able to find out the date. But I'm trying to work out. I think it could have been about that time. But yeah, so if I remember rightly, one of our guys had a bit of a limp at the time, and they have this little motorised scooter that takes you up. So if you see me walking with a limp on Saturday, don't worry, I'm fine. I just don't want to walk up that hill when we get there. Right, prediction time. Rob, start with you.
Do you want a hopeful or realistic?
Like
Or I
both.
can give you both.
Yeah, like both.
Yeah, give us both.
So hopeful. Hopeful. Let's go for a 1-0. Realistic. I think it could be a 2-1, as we had last weekend. I think it could be one of those where if we don't start right, we could have lost the game before half time.
And Miles?
Yeah, it's one of those where I think it's very, very difficult to call an outcome. I can see us going there and sneaking a win. I can also see us going there and getting heavily beat. So I think I'm going to have to predict a Borough loss for the first time on the podcast, which is a bit of a shame. But I think the crowd will have an impact. Dover on very good form. I think we'll probably play well again. Story of the last month. But fall to a loss. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Dover, unfortunately. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I hope I'm wrong as well, but I think I don't see us getting anything out of the game unless we see something that something we haven't seen in the last. Well, we didn't see last week. I think so. I'm again going to give two predictions. If we've got the team and the team play like they played at home to Hampton and away at Dorking, I think we lose 2-1. If we've got the team that played at Torquay, well, I don't want to say. And that's the problem at the moment. You know, it's definitely the roller coaster, and you just don't know what team's going to turn up. So I suppose ask me after 10 minutes, but I'll say I think we'll be beat. I'm going to go for 3-1, and I'm disappointed that that's the first time I've said we're going to get beat. But let's hope that the players turn it around and we're all wrong again, because we've not been right yet. So let's hope that.
That's true. No one's got anything right so far, have they? No one's got one correct prediction. So don't listen to us, is what the what we're saying there.
Yeah.
Talking about the games coming up, that Boxing Day one is one I'm very concerned about.
I'm absolutely bricking it. I can't. I seriously, I think mentally I've already accepted a loss, which sounds horrendous to say.
It's
but we have a
case of how
terrible
bad
record
it is.
Yeah, we have a terrible record against Worthing as it is. I can only remember us beating them once. Now, since I've supported us, and that was in the FA Cup under Danny Blur. So that shows you how many years ago that was. A few years ago. And then as everyone's been saying, like Worthing are on ridiculous run of form, and have got the top goal scorer in the league, even though we've got the second or third top goal scorer. So at least that's something going for us. But we'll get into it next week in more detail, I'm sure. But I'm bricking it for Boxing Day, and it's even earlier, so we'll have the pain even earlier. Hopefully he can prove us wrong, but I'm not feeling very optimistic this week, as you can probably tell. But if Tommy is watching though for Saturday, please can you start Jaden Davis? hopefully you didn't fall out too much on Saturday, and you had a nice chat on Monday and resolve things. And yeah, please get that man on the wing because he's electric when he gets going. So yeah, if Tommy has a spare hour in his day, or today he does, please start Jaden.
This is it. When I say I'm hopeful for a 1-0, when I say that, I'm hopeful of a repeat performance that we had down at Truro last season, where that was a complete smash and grab. Yeah. If we can do that in the next 2 games, and to be honest, I think those are, although Hampton and Richmond was a great result on paper, I think what we need is a couple of those scrappy 1-0s where we're lucky to get away with it, and then the players start to believe actually the luck's on our side, not just a case of, well, okay, we should have won that game. I think we need a couple of games where we scrape over the line and get a win or a draw. If we can get a last minute equaliser, anything like that, something that really does turn the tide. I think that's what I'm hopeful for.
We need some clean sheets though. Like I'm just checking now, with the second worst defence in the league, and that was one of the good things we had actually under Matt Gray, wasn't it? We were pretty all right defensively. I know he obviously lost a lot of games, but we didn't get beat very heavily. And that's the main concern, isn't it, from not Aldershot fans? I know he had Tommy before, but like as a word of warning that it is very gung-ho football, which obviously if you're scoring 4 works very nicely. But if you're leaking goals, then asking the strikers to score 3 goals a game to get you over the line is just not feasible. Unless you're Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, pretty much, with the best front 3 the Premier League's seen, arguably. So if we could start scrapping out a couple of even like I hate to say it, maybe a 0-0 here or there, or a 1-0 win, etc. would be a good starting point. But I just don't think that's Tommy's philosophy, which is fair enough. But we need to see some more going forward in that case, then.
Yeah, and I mean we may see, you never know. We may see Freddie back at the weekend. I know Freddie was out with a bit of illness on Saturday, so that may give us a bit more options at the back. But you're right, we need to stop conceding the goals. We need to start scoring them, more importantly, because you do need to score goals. And I think in this league, everybody, I don't know one team that hasn't got a danger man up front. That player that can whack the ball away, including us. Look, we've got the second highest score in the league, and yet we're second bottom. So that it's a mad. We said last year it was a mad league. I think this year it's just proving it in a little different way. So so hopefully we'll see you all on Saturday. Next week might be a little bit different. We might have 2 guests on. We couldn't get a guest on today from Dover. But hopefully next week we'll definitely have someone from Worthing. We may be doing a double up next week and doing Worthing and Tunbridge together. Or it may even be a treble up. We may have someone from Slough as well. We're just trying to work out the logistics of what we can all do over the Christmas period. So we'll see you next week. But if you're watching this one, you can't watch next week or whatever, have a great Christmas. Enjoy Dover on Saturday. Bit of a fun day down there. And let's hope that we can score some points. So thanks, Rob, for coming on tonight.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Miles.
No problem. Hopefully we get the 3 points Saturday. I mean, worst comes to worst, it's a new ground for me as well. So not as very rare I get to say that. So I'm looking forward to it.
And we'll see you all next week. Cheers. Thanks for watching.
Cheers all. Bye.
Up the sports. See you later.